Miraculous Ladybug, Jujutsu Kaisen. In my quest to find the most different characters possible and make them fight to the death, we've come to this. So, could Sukuna solo Miraculous Ladybug? No, I don't think he'd even make the top 10 worst things that have happened in the show, though he'd definitely be the goriest. So how about we turn this around? What if we took the team protectors of Paris, dropped them in front of the entire cast of Jujutsu Kaisen, and made them all fight? Now, I'm sure some of you hear that and think, of course they'd lose, how can this even be close? They're a pair of immature teenagers from a kids show where romance is the main draw. And they're French. To which I say, first of all, kids show protagonists solo your favorite verse. Secondly, you'd be surprised. There's a bit of a rabbit hole here because Ladybug and Chat Noir are a lot more powerful than they first appear, and their universe is far more complicated. The show has had 5 seasons to just get completely out of hand. So I ask again, could they defeat Jujutsu Kaisen? But before we go into that, a few things to allow the battle to be interesting. For starters, Ladybug and Chat will have cursed energy. Not enough to change the outcome of the battle, but enough to see and kill cursed spirits and be affected by domain expansions and certain cursed techniques. Secondly, speed. I'll go into it more in their section, but their speed will be restricted to prevent this video from just being me saying speed blitz. Thirdly, I will only grant the characters abilities we've seen them do or can reasonably believe they could do right now. Functionally, this means Chat Noir is not nuking the battlefield with giant balls of destruction because he hasn't learned how to do so yet, and the JJK characters aren't going to form never before seen binding vows to win this fight. Yes, I'm looking at you, Sukuna. With all that in mind, let's slam these action figures together. Jujutsu Kaisen is an anime following Yuji Itadori, who, contrary to popular belief, is the main character. After swallowing the cursed finger of Ryomen Sukuna, he's thrust into a crazy battle between cursed spirits and sorcerers, between the past and the present, in order to survive and protect his allies in Jujutsu society. To this end, the characters utilize cursed energy, harnessed from negative emotions and weaponized. A bit ironic considering the most consistent threat they face are cursed spirits, formed from negative energy that leaks out of non-sorcerers and into monsters personifying those things. From as little as a curse formed from humanity's fear of grasshoppers to curses representing primal fear of natural disasters. Sorcerers are arranged by grade, with grade 4 being the weakest, grade 1 being the strongest among normal people, and special grade being the anomalies with the potential to be unstoppable. Cursed spirits also exist on this scale, but their placement is lowered, so it's expected that a grade 1 sorcerer can beat a grade 1 curse. And at the pinnacle are Ryomen Sukuna and Satoru Gojo, 2 sorcerers who practically exist in their own tier of power, to the point where a character can go, Gojo obviously isn't working for the enemy. If he was, they wouldn't have to do this convoluted plan, he could just kill everyone in the country by himself. Cursed energy enhances the strength and speed of the characters as well as gives them access to abilities called cursed techniques. These come in a variety of flavors with varying levels of devastation. In analyzing the strength of the verse though, there are 2 tiers to look at: Gojo and Sukuna, and everyone else. Let's talk about everyone else. JJK has been pretty contentious when it comes to its scaling, especially its speed, and depending on who you ask, Mark 3 might be a significant number, or it might be a reminder that power scaling involves taking this far more seriously than the writers. Cursed Naoya's speed of Mark 3 was considered to be incredible compared to the awakened but not fully realized Maki, who, while not at her peak yet, was powerful enough to slaughter one of the big 3 Jujutsu families by herself, including Naoya as a human, who was a grade 1 sorcerer specializing in speed. Then there's the lightning feats. This page of the manga appears to depict Hakari reacting to and adjusting his body to avoid a shot of lightning to the face in his battle against Kashimo, and he isn't even special grade. In terms of power, while this is arguably not as much of a debate, there's just as big a difference when it comes to people's conclusion on the scaling. The characters consistently show multi-city block to large town levels when it comes to feats and power, with things like Oraume's ice feats and Jogo's maximum meteor technique at the highest end. However, these are maximum techniques. Consider the strongest application of these characters' outputs, and outside of them, the characters more consistently scale to multi-city block levels at their highest tiers. But there is one situation that raises the bar: domain expansions. Depending on your stance on equating power to creation abilities, domains are a very big point of discussion. A domain expansion is the pinnacle of the verse's abilities. As they expand their innate domain, the mental landscape reflecting their souls, that is the foundation of their technique, into reality, in a barrier that bends space to be bigger on the inside. In these domains, abilities become sure hit with a guarantee to land on opponents, as well as gaining a significant increase in power because, technically, if you're in a domain, you're standing inside their power. This is significant because Jogo's domain, Coffin of the Iron Mountain, creates a mountain, and Dagon's Red Lobster Hotbox can create an island. However, this doesn't really translate to strength outside of a domain. This is due to the fact that these domains compress space and the fact that doing this burns out your technique, rendering you incapable of using it until you recover. So it's clearly an overly taxing ability, even more than maximum techniques. Domains traditionally exist inside a barrier, but someone as skilled as Kenjaku can make one without it. If making a domain is like painting a masterpiece, doing something like that is like painting a masterpiece on air. But of course, there is the big outlier. Yuki Tsukumo's black hole, generated with her ability to create virtual mass, was stated to be powerful enough to destroy the planet in exchange for her life. Arguably, any other special grade can do something like this, but I'm not scaling everyone to it. It was held back in the first place by her own will, along with a combination of Tengen's barriers that themselves mess with space. Durability wise, the characters generally scale from multi-city block to low town levels at the highest tiers based on their abilities to take hits from each other. And now we get to the main events, Gojo and Sukuna. While the island level attack potency was questionable but acceptable for domains, Gojo displays that he can reach that level of power on his own, as his escape from 8 kilometers underwater in the Japanese trench caused an earthquake that could be felt 280 kilometers away in the Saitama prefecture. So already that's a massive jump in power, as well as providing a skill for Sukuna, who is stronger. Speed wise, a Sukuna who wasn't at his strongest was able to react to and dodge Kashimo's curse technique, which manifests electrical phenomena, including electromagnetic waves, giving him light speed reactions and combat speed, which Gojo also scales to. You know, if you don't think he was just aim dodging before the attack was fired like some do, as he was hit by sonic attack right before this. And no, every other character doesn't scale to this speed because Sukuna was either playing around with them in their fight or had things like soul and heart damage. It really does make sense why these characters are considered the strongest. You may notice I haven't brought up that many unique abilities, to which I say I will discuss them as they become relevant to the battle. Though it is worth mentioning that certain characters can use reverse curse technique, which allows them to heal to the point of regrowing limbs. So, let's get to the miraculous characters. Marinette, Dupain-Cheng and Adrien Agreste were relatively normal teenagers before they were given the Miraculous of the Ladybug and Black Cat, chosen to protect Paris from Moth, a supervillain using the Miraculous of the Butterfly to create other supervillains. Moth's desire is to obtain both of their Miraculous, as they are powered by the Kwami, Tiki and Plague, who are separate halves of a single all-powerful reality-bending entity called Gimme, so he can make a wish that will alter the universe. Eventually, Marinette became the guardian of the Miracle Box, tasked with protecting and using the other powerful Miraculous. If you watched my Homelander vs Ladybug video, you should have some idea of what the miraculous characters can do, but I'll go over it again. In terms of speed, they were reacting to lightning from a weather creating villain from the very first episode, and would later go on to react to and dodge light based abilities and lasers, even in situations where they can't breathe and in environments mimicking the void of space. They can even move fast enough to spin their weapons and block laser fire without any of it getting through, which is actually an insane thing to do. There are some massively faster than light feats to bring up in relation to a villain who could go to another galaxy in a couple minutes and another who could overshadow the Milky Way galaxy in seconds. I will ignore them as I mentioned earlier. In terms of strength, both heroes show that they scale to the raw physical power of villains ranging from multi-city block to town level, with Ladybug directly stating she could have easily stopped this town level meteor by herself. Something made far more likely by the fact that this crudely drawn flashback depicts her stopping what appears to be several meteors as something she did off screen. The real kicker is the durability of these characters. From the scaling of Miraculous based abilities, from Star Train flying a train to another galaxy to Stormy Weather moving the planet and Argos creating a moon, Ladybug and Chat have displayed the ability to tank attacks from characters who should range from baseline, large planetary levels, up to solar system level, and keep going with ease. Watching the show, very few attacks do much more than cause them temporary pain, one of which is the Cataclysm, Chat Noir's pure destruction ability, which scales to Ladybug's powers, which have moved the planet at speeds requiring star level power and can fix the timeline and universe when broken. It also destroyed the Galette several times the size of the Earth, and they are perfectly capable of surviving the hit for a good while, though it does hurt a lot and will eventually kill you. In terms of abilities, Ladybug and Chat Noir wield the power of creation and destruction. I've already begun going into Chat Noir's ability, which allows him to destroy anything he touches. Matter, energy, pocket dimensions. If he can touch it or punch it, he can destroy it. The only thing in the show shown to be immune is his staff, probably due to the fact that it was produced by the power, but anything organic gets turned to ash. Basically, if you have anything short of universal level durability or a hack that's resistant to it, you shouldn't even dream of surviving this unscathed. His staff is also a pretty versatile weapon which can extend almost indefinitely, divide into two, come back to him if thrown like a boomerang, and be used as a shield. On the other hand, we have Ladybug, who has the power of creation. This mainly manifests as the lucky charm, which allows her to summon whatever she needs to win whatever situation she's currently found herself in. It's an extremely intuitive power that knows far more about the world than reasonable and can give her anything to get her to take advantage of the situation for victory. It's given her card keys that worked on a specific random card that was underwater she would later use to trap her opponent. It's also given her something to help her notice and escape an ambush she had no idea was coming. In a situation where her opponent rewinds time without her knowledge, it will give her a different thing to adapt to their change in strategy. She can summon complex machinery like a laser gun or a butterfly pheromone tracker, vehicles like fire trucks, and even massive weapons. When she fully utilizes her power, she can create magic charms that can resist the butterfly, as she is, in fact, capable of making literally anything. Her main weapon is her yo-yo, which she uses for anything from swinging around the environment to making nets and cutting things like a garrote wire. For most of the series, Ladybug and Chat's abilities were limited, with them only being able to make use of them once before running out of power. But as of the end of season 5, they've improved to the point they can use it as many times as they want without detransforming, though Ladybug only has one lucky charm object at a time. And then there are the power-ups, which allow them to alter their suits to their environment. We've only seen 3 though, an aquatic one, an ice one, and a space one. The space suits are very notable as it gives them the ability to fly at sub-relativistic speeds and survive in space. So, with our character's baseline stats established, how does the battle go from here? If I gathered every JJK character in Shinjuku and made them work together to fight Ladybug and Chat Noir, who are ready to kill, how does it go? Well, it shouldn't be a surprise for me to say that none of the JJK characters are winning this by conventional damage. Ladybug and Chat are easily capable of just walking off basically any physical attack the verse can throw at them. And worst of all, they're faster. They beat Sukuna and Gojo in speed scaling with better and more consistent feats. And don't worry, I will get to those two later. Once again, we're starting off by talking about everyone else. In terms of physical strikes, the heroes match the strongest things we've seen grade 1 and special grade characters do, and everyone below them is taking a few hits at speeds faster than they can perceive and going down permanently. Even the grade 1s aren't doing that much better. Mei Mei, Nanami, Kusakabe, all skilled sorcerers, all very experienced warriors, all getting sliced in half by a yo-yo moving faster than light. It would be a massacre as like 95% of the cast meets very swift ends at the hands of goddamn teenagers. Their only hope would be to try and survive via their cursed techniques, but a lot of them are dying before that really becomes relevant. Yuki's star rage would allow her to not become a victim of a quick beating by increasing her mass to match them physically, so she gets turned to ash instead. Chat Noir is kind of the win immediately button once his morals are turned off. he has canonically been avoiding murdering all his opponents in the show. And in case you were wondering, by all indication, Ladybug and Chat are the only characters who could escape and survive her final black hole, so if she does do that, then frankly she's just ending the fight for them far earlier. And that's if they can't just stop it themselves. The thing is, Ladybug and Chat do have experience taking on multiple powerful opponents at once, and while a lot of those opponents are ones whose powers they were already familiar with, they also tend to scale far higher. Stormy Weather, the villain from episode 1, had casual mountain level feats and threatened to freeze all of Paris, and that's just one villain. And if they try to win with numbers, the superheroes are a quick snack break away from flying in the air, giving them a massive speed boost in travel speed and the aerial advantage to do things like strategize. Some characters could fly up there, but they'd just as quickly be smacked down. But this fight isn't just about teenagers beating a shonen verse to death with their bare hands. If that's what I wanted, I could have just put them up against Demon Slayer. The reason I was interested in this was to compare techniques. Do Ladybug and Chat have enough hacks to maintain this advantage over an entire verse like Jujutsu Kaisen? Now, the first question to ask is this. Cursed spirits. What happens if Chat hits them with Cataclysm? They aren't really organic like people. As far as I can tell, there are two possibilities. The first is that much like how Chat can destroy things based on energy, he could also destroy the coalesced negative energy of the curses, instantly killing them. And that is what would happen if the JJK verse was lucky. Yes, having the cursed spirits immediately die would be the lucky outcome. In Miraculous, there are creatures that are similar to cursed spirits, senti-monsters, creatures created from the emotions of people using the Peacock Miraculous. They can be formed from positive or negative emotion, but the same thing happens when they get hit by Cataclysm. They go crazy and start attacking everything around them. There is a good chance that Chat's Cataclysm makes the cursed spirits go berserk and attack everyone, which will definitely divide the Jujutsu team's attention because they will have to turn around and start putting down what should be their allies. But let's start discussing how individual hacks abilities really stack up to the Parisian duo. If a certain character's ability isn't mentioned here, assume they just got speed blitzed and one shot. Frankly, some of the characters I discuss here should also be getting speed blitzed and one shot, but I think it'd be interesting to take a look at them anyway. First on the chopping block, Uraume. Not because she'd win, but because if she does let out a powerful blast of ice, she might force them to use the ice power up. For comparison, Furzer was able to freeze all of Paris in seconds. That's a city level feat, as opposed to Uraume's town level maximum output. She goes down, and honestly this would probably just make it harder for most of our allies to continue fighting while Ladybug and Chat Noir start skating everywhere. Now, Mahito is interesting, because there isn't really any indication Ladybug and Chat understand their souls enough to damage him traditionally. Maybe you could logic their Kwami to be comparable to a Sukuna type situation, and he might either get disintegrated or turned against everyone else by Cataclysm. But is there anything other than assumptions protecting our heroes if he manages to put his hands on them? The thing is, nothing in Miraculous Ladybug really gets referred to as the soul. It's usually more based on emotions than anything else. Back to the Kwamis. It's kind of funny to imagine Mahito touching Adrien's innate domain and finding a god of destruction staring right back at him. But Mahito would have to touch them, and his only real chance of doing that on his own is a domain expansion. Now, domain expansions like self-embodiment of perfection could pose serious threats, but only if he attacks immediately, because Chat Noir has a very easy way to deal with enclosed pocket spaces like this.
Yes!
It's difficult to destroy a domain from the inside, but not impossible, and destroying things is his specialty. So in the case that Ladybug and Chat slow down enough for him to catch them, and he applies his domain sure hit faster than they can break out, it's possible he wins. These questions apply to Yuji and Maki and their soul attacks too. But really, on the topic of domains, with the whole gist being that they hit harder, many of them fail to turn the tides and just get destroyed by Chat. Same with any barriers. And after one or two tries, the JJK characters would probably know to avoid that because that would just cause them to have burnout. There is one domain that could do something though. Time Cell Moon Palace. Oh, you thought I was gonna bring up Unlimited Void? No, not yet. This is Cursed Naoya's domain. Now, I'll be real with you. This domain is absolutely broken. Ladybug and Chat have no way to figure out or follow the rules of projection sorcery, and if they're caught in it, their cells freeze and they risk serious injury. The only reason Gege was comfortable introducing this broken ability is because Maki was immune and could break in and kill him immediately afterwards. Ladybug and Chat simply have no answer to this, which is why it's a good thing they kill him immediately. I mean, his top speed is a terrifying Mach 3. Jogo's fire is hot, the sun is hotter, and the characters have shown they can resist such direct exposure to heat. I mean, I don't think he's done anything as impressive as Stormy Weather 2's giant earth-moving volcano. Hanami's got the flower field, which relaxes the person hit by it, but at best this only temporarily slows the heroes down. They've shown that a much more powerful mental attack like the pig Miraculous's gift, which put them in a fake world where all their dreams came true, had a temporary effect in real world time. Boogie Woogie is a great support ability and will be a great headache for the characters in terms of landing a hit, especially with the Vibro Slap swapping them around 50 times a second. That being said, the Miraculous characters and their incredible speed have a better chance of comprehending and reacting to any impromptu changes that he makes faster than his allies. But it will be a great avenue for setting things up, like Mahito getting to touch one of the heroes. And the heroes themselves will have cursed energy, so they too can be moved by Todo. Mahoraga's adaptation. Oh, this could be a disaster. If Cataclysm doesn't kill it, it's gonna go on a rampage, and at its strongest, Sukuna and Gojo using their strongest attacks might be the only things that can stop it. And God forbid they let it adapt to getting destroyed. Uro's sky manipulation. Honestly, this kind of scares me, because her ability allows her to turn the sky into a tangible, touchable surface, which means Cataclysm can hit it. So, what happens to the sky? Perfect Sphere. This is arguably the only AP based thing that could damage the heroes. I'm not gonna go into the math, but it basically hits with infinite pressure, and it loses to Cataclysm, which has shown that it will affect anything before it can affect Chat. Cursed Speech would probably instantly kill anyone who tries to use it on them because of the difference in power. Yes, even Yuta. That'd be a pretty funny way for him to be taken out of the battle completely. Now, Takaba presents a real problem. If he's not too freaked out by all the dead people, there's a chance he starts a comedy battle with Chat Noir and Ladybug just gives up out of sheer embarrassment. Okay, but seriously, the heroes are probably not equipped to deal with Takaba while fighting everyone else. Alone, they could probably figure out his abilities the way they have other abilities in their verse, but they're hardly in a position to do anything about it. The saving grace is that they're tough enough to have quite a bit of time, and Chat will absolutely get into the swing of it as a jokester. And that's everyone. Now, let's get to the main event. The strongest. Once again, Ladybug and Chat Noir are not getting taken down by physical might, so Gojo and Sukuna only have 3 options: the World Cutting Slash, Hollow Purple, Unlimited Void. But of course, there is the ever-present question: how do they get past infinity? And this is where I pull the rug out from under you. Those of you who have been paying attention will realize that Chat Noir has been absolutely carrying this video. I mean, my response to a lot of the things so far have basically boiled down to Cataclysm destroys it. But that's because I have put basically no focus into what Ladybug is doing, as I honestly have no idea what the Lucky Charm could give her. So think back to every scenario I've discussed so far and remember that Ladybug has the ability to just summon whatever she needs to win. And in my mind, there's one very obvious thing she could summon: the inverted Spear of Heaven, or something similar. Think about it. She can't create anything. She's already created magical objects meant to defend against emotion-based abilities in her verse, and that's before she herself was given access to cursed energy for this scenario. As far as I can tell, the only reason she wouldn't create something that could nullify cursed techniques is if there's a more convoluted and complicated strategy for her to use to win. So think back on all those scenarios and add in Ladybug with an anti-curse technique weapon in her hand. That's how they get through infinity. But now they're at a disadvantage, because Sukuna and Gojo have been watching them absolutely decimate everyone, and they're quite aware of what they're dealing with. And depending on how you see the EM wave feats, the speed difference might be close enough to close the gap against characters with better skills and battle IQ. Especially considering that now, Cataclysm is the only thing the heroes have that can overcome their opponents. Sukuna's domain is open, so Chat would have to destroy the shrine to stop it. And even if Cleave and Dismantle don't hit hard enough to kill them, they aren't going to go closer into it because they won't realize that's what they need to do. This leaves them open to getting hit with a hollow purple, as they don't show any resistance to existence erasure, and the world cutting slash, which they might not even see coming. And then there's unlimited void. Supposing the Ladybug Spear of Heaven doesn't stop domain techniques, or Gojo and Sukuna figure out a way to get it away from Ladybug, they simply have no response to the information overload it causes. When it comes to the question, can Ladybug and Chat Noir defeat Jujutsu Kaisen? The answer is no. Oh, they would be a terrifying force of speed and power and would mow down most of the verse without problem, but Gojo and Sukuna have an adequate number of durability ignoring attacks and the skill and speed necessary to challenge them. Plus, Mahito and the other soul damaging attacks like Yuji's Shrine aren't things I can reliably say they have an answer to, especially if Todo's Vibro Slap is working against them, and there's no denying how tough it is to deal with Takaba's technique. On top of that, they definitely separate the two using Todo, as Ladybug has less AP and Chat has no answer to curse techniques. Alone, these things could reasonably be dealt with, but together I can only reliably say the Lucky Charm can do something to a certain extent because anything more would just be bias. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible they could win. The Lucky Charm could summon a giant meteor to destroy Japan while the heroes are flying away. But honestly, that'd be a boring way to resolve the situation. The JJK verse might be thrown into disarray by the arrival of these two god-powered humans, but they can quickly recover and strategize. But here's the second twist. I have been ignoring a whole bag of abilities the heroes could use to win this battle. The other Miraculous. Don't forget, Marinette is the Guardian, and if this fight were to happen, say, before she gave the Miraculous to their holders in the season 5 finale, how does that change the outcome of the battle? Well, it's simple. The JJK verse gets demolished, and it's not even close. For starters, the Horse Miraculous gives the user the ability to create portals to anywhere in the universe, and I can't lie, I really love the idea of dealing with infinity by dropping Gojo in the sun. I'm not even making that up, this is something Ladybug has canonically done with opponents that couldn't just be beaten up. The Snake Miraculous is also one that would prove invaluable in such a complicated battle. The user can rewind time while retaining their memory, allowing them to undo any mistakes they've made and prepare for any plans their opponents make. The Monkey Miraculous's derision power makes the abilities of anyone it hits go haywire, so a character determined to be too much of a hassle could be made useless. Then there's the Tiger Miraculous, which would allow Ladybug to hit with planetary levels of power and can cause explosions comparable to that of a nuclear bomb. This would cover for her lack of AP. The Dragon Miraculous allows the user to turn themselves into and control water, air and lightning for defensive and offensive abilities. The Rooster Miraculous lets you give yourself any superpower. And finally, the Ox Miraculous gives you immunity to any superpower that touches you. Honestly, forget everything else. Give Chat Noir the Ox Miraculous and just let him go to town. I'm not gonna bring up the Rabbit Miraculous because A, she didn't have that in the season 5 finale, and B, it would be boring for her and Chat to just go to another dimension where they can go anywhere in time and observe their enemies to figure out how their powers work and prepare accordingly. Can Ladybug and Chat Noir defeat Jujutsu Kaisen? No. But when they use other Miraculous, they aren't Ladybug and Chat Noir anymore, because they changed their names to reflect their new abilities. And in that case, with the powers of all the other Miraculous in hand, taking on the Jujutsu Society and even its enemies becomes a far easier task for Marinette and Adrien. Shout out to my patrons A and Skyman. What do you think? Anything about this matchup you think is worth bringing up? Any abilities I overlooked? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.